Hello and welcome to our inaugural episode of Southbank Stories. My name is Johnny McGurgan and I'll be hopefully joined shortly by my co-host for the evening, Penny Beggs. To explain a little bit what this is all about, we were thinking of Southbank projects we could do during the COVID lockdown days that we're all having to endure. And what we had an idea to do was to interview or have a conversation with some of our more experienced members and talk to them about their memories and stories through the years. As you know, Southbank was formed when Osborne Players and Trident companies merged. So we thought we'd begin with some of the key members of those groups, just to try and get a full picture of how Southbank as we know it came to be. So today we thought we'd start at the top. I'm very pleased to introduce our first guest, a founding member of the Osborne Players, who's been in over 45 performances on stage for the Osborne Players, Trident and Southbank, the wonderful Sheila Dixon. And now I'm going to hand you over to my delightful co-host, who needs no introduction, the fountain of all knowledge, Penny Beggs.
Thank you, Johnny. I don't know about the fount of all knowledge. I must say I'm absolutely delighted to have this opportunity of having a conversation with Sheila. Sheila and I have been friends for 50 years, dare I say it?
Yes, indeed.
And indeed, you're quite right, Johnny, she is one of the founder members, a small group of founder members of the Osborne Players. From 1966. Now, the first time I remember seeing you on stage, Sheila, was in a Belfast Shakespeare Society production in the King George VI Hall on May Street.
Oh my goodness, that's a long time ago, Penny.
And I think it was The Winter's Tale, and I think we were both barely out of our teens at that point.
That's right.
So was that the beginning of it for you, or had you had involvement with drama before that as well, maybe at school?
Well, at school, in primary school, I was always in little plays that children play at school, you know. And then when I went to Bloomfield Collegiate, I got involved with the drama club there, and I actually took drama and elocution lessons with Nana Ward, later Nana Houston. And
it's a well-known lady in drama circles.
Well-known lady indeed, and a lovely lady at that. And she was very keen on Shakespeare. In fact, until she left, we did nothing but Shakespeare plays at Bloomfield, you know, so we were sort of grounded in the Bard. And she was also a member of the Belfast Shakespeare Society, which at one stage was the British Empire Shakespeare Society. So it shows you how long it goes back. And the idea of the Belfast Shakespeare Society was to promote the works of Shakespeare through readings, plays, and just general discussion about Shakespeare and his works. So every year at the Shakespeare Society, they had a schools night, and people from all sorts of schools came along and did their little bit for the benefit of the rest of the group. And she took myself and Eileen along, and we performed sort of scenes. And that's where we met Nevin. I met Nevin, I think I was 14 when I met Nevin. So
yes, that was Nevin Harris, for the people who maybe don't remember him, yes.
Yes, Nevin Harris, sorry, I should explain because I'm talking to you. I know you know all about it.
Yes.
But anyway, so that's how I got involved. And then when I left school, I continued with the Shakespeare Society, and we were a solid little group. And then Jennifer came in as well to
yes, Jennifer was in The Winter's Tale as well, wasn't she?
Yeah, she took on the role of Perdita.
Perdita, yes.
Perdita. At that time, I was also in the Hollywood Players, and Sidney Cahoon was directing The Winter's Tale, and The Winter's Tale, and he thought that Jennifer was suitable. I thought I should have been Perdita. I was 21, he was 19. And he told me that, I said, why am I not Perdita? And he said, well, you're really too long in the tooth. And I was 21 then, so I always that was a bit crass. But actually, Jennifer did the part beautifully. And it was a great success. Yeah. So Yeah.
Well, certainly, I mean, the reason that I knew about the Belfast Shakespeare Society was because I was at that stage in my early days at Queen's with Nevin.
Yes.
And then he introduced myself and Bowden at the time to it. Yes, and I remember the Winter's Tale. I remember Macbeth
Yes.
quite clearly, and several of them, yes. So that would have been in the sort of last few years of the Shakespeare Society. So what happened to it?
Well, I think it just grew old, really, basically, and people within it grew older. They were all sort of Shakespeare buffs, you know, and well in their later years, shall we say. And it just sort of died a natural death in many ways. There wasn't the same interest in doing Shakespeare, and getting young blood in was difficult. So it unfortunately passed away peacefully.
So then there were a group of you who wanted to continue as friends and partners in dramatic activity, if you like, and that was when the Osborne Players was founded.
Yes, yes.
And was that 1966, did we think that was?
Yes, but I think it was about 66. And we very small group of people, Eileen Hamilton, she was Eileen Young then, and Nevin, Desmond Shaw, Molly Glover, Pat O'Donnell, and myself. And we met one evening in Molly Glover's apartment in Osborne Park, and the Osborne Players were born. So that's how it all happened.
So a small group to begin with then?
A very small group, with no home base, with no facilities, no resources. And we thought, what can we do? Well, what we decided on doing was a sort of, Eileen and I, just to go back a bit, during the early 60s, had been involved with Manor Street, was Manor Street Boys Club. But one night a week, the girls were allowed to come in and enjoy themselves. And we sort of ran drama classes for them. And we had, through a couple of years, we put them in for various youth club competitions. And we actually did a national competition with them. And they won it in the youth centre in Belfast. And what we had done with them was a sort of miscellany of old Belfast street games and stories, and that's what we revived, really, to
just when we're talking about the Manor Street Club, I mean, that was an amazing thing to do at the time, because most young people really had no access to drama. It wasn't taught in school as a subject the way it is now. And unless people could afford to have private lessons, those girls probably would not have had that opportunity, would they?
No, and I mean, some of them had such great natural talent. It was a joy to see them progress and do so well, you know, and come through in a national festival, which took in the whole of Great Britain.
Absolutely, it was some achievement.
Yes, it was. It was amazing for them. And I think, you know, that they got such a lot out of it. But, you know, eventually other things came into play, and that stopped as well. So, but it was something that we thoroughly enjoyed, and the basis of that formed the first show that we did with the Osborne Players, which was to take this Belfast miscellany around the churches, because we had nowhere to put these plays on and programs on. So yeah, that's how it all began.
So that was at the beginning of our production list. It says 1968 miscellany of poems and acted scenes. So that would have been.
But I think it was before. I think it was before then, Penny. Actually,
before 68.
We're all a bit hazy on the dates, you know, because it's a long time ago. But I think it was. I know that Eileen Hamilton went to Guildhall Drama School in 1967, and I got married in 68. So I think it was probably either at the start of 67, because Eileen would have gone in the September, and then the next year I got married. So we did this for a very short time, really.
It was a useful way to be able to perform when really didn't have the facilities for full-length plays.
We rehearsed in other people, in everybody's home, you know. That was the only way we could do it. and but we had great fun. We loved it. It was
yes. So, the amateur drama scene in Belfast in those days, I mean, there were a number of companies that we still know, Hollywood Players for a start, obviously, and the Circle Theatre Group.
Yes.
And all of these groups go way back, and Northern Ireland has a very high reputation in terms of the professional quality of amateur theatre, isn't that right?
Yes, indeed.
So this was just about the start of the Troubles.
Well, yes, the Troubles started in 1969, was that it?
Yes,
somewhere around there. And yes, but we kept on going. I mean, at the height of the Troubles in the 70s, there was only amateur drama in Northern Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
There was no professional drama whatsoever. So amateur drama companies really kept the whole theatrical world going, you know, as far as Northern Ireland was concerned. And there was a great deal of competition, you know, between the drama clubs. I can remember the Ulster Drama Festivals. You know, you had to go through the regional festivals first of all and win these to get to the final, which usually was at the Opera House, until it was bombed, and then it moved to Ballymena to the County Hall. But I mean, I can remember the excitement of the finals, and you know, how people who couldn't be there were phoning everybody to see what had happened. You know, there was actually
Yes.
a sense of community then, I think, between drama clubs, you know.
Yes, yes. Well, of course, I mean, the Osborne Players, and then I think into Southbank, we were still going to festivals for a long time, weren't we?
Yes, yes.
But, it was, when we were doing 3 plays a year, it was really quite difficult to get organised to go around festivals, because nearly always you had one day to go down, get set up, perform and go home again.
But I think probably the difficulty was that all the tech work and the sets and all fell on the same sort of people.
Yes.
Or the same people. And
so does it.
the actors could just turn up. It wasn't like that for them. You know?
Yes.
But I do feel like doing, you know, actually going to the drama festivals and meeting other companies, people from other companies, and being in competition with them, I thought those were great times, actually.
Yes.
And it was sort of outward looking in a sense, you know.
Yes, we miss that a bit, don't we?
I think we do. I think we do. It's less
There's
work.
a lot of, sorry.
It's
a lot of amateur drama, really. Yeah.
But it's probably not as rewarding in a sense.
Because I mean, we're looking at even, you know, Churches Drama League, even the young farmers, you know, all have their own competitions, and still lots of.
I was in the Churches Drama League in the period that I didn't go to to Osborne, which was really from when I got married and moved to Bangor. And I had no car, so it was difficult to get up to Belfast 3 times a week or whatever for rehearsals. So I then moved into West Church Drama Club and spent a few years with them, directing plays and occasionally acting. And we got quite a lot of kudos from that, from going into competition with the other churches' drama clubs, you know. And I even won a scholarship to Gormanston College from it. So that was quite good for me personally.
Yes. So there hasn't really been an actual gap in your active life in drama in all of your life?
There hasn't been really since I started in drama. In fact, when I was in the Hollywood Players, and again, I was in the Shakespeare Society, I was rehearsing 2 plays at once, you know, so that was quite, then I was young, I could do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I can barely remember lines when I'm rehearsing for 1 play, let alone 2.
I used to be better at it, Johnny, than I am now. But yeah, it was good. And I have to say that the only play I ever, I've been on the Opera House stage a few times, but the only play that I was actually in a winning play in the festival was with Hollywood. So
that's interesting.
Nice experience as well.
Yes. Yeah. So I didn't realize though that you had been a director as well.
Yes.
During that period.
Indeed. I directed well, of course, being a church's drama league, you had to pick your plays very carefully. So the first one I did was the Diary of Anne Frank, which very good. Well, I have to say they were all very good in it, you know. And I then did Sailor Beware, which was a farce, you know. And then Laburnum Grove, Priestley, J.B. Priestley, and The Heiress, and The Glass Menagerie, Johnny.
Oh.
I think you may have used my books, which I
Oh, did you? Yeah. I plundered lots of things in Southbank from the Glass Menagerie, and I went through all those old texts.
Yes.
So yeah.
So you haven't thought about coming back now to direct?
No, I did attempt.
And give us the benefit of your long experience.
No, I attempted it once with I think it must have been Osborne. It was I directed The Happiest Days of Your Life with the West Church, and I thought, oh, that would make a good summer play. So I offered to direct, and everybody turned their noses up at it. So I never did it again.
It shouldn't be so easily put off.
You know, what I liked about it was it had loads of people in it. So you were using a lot of people, and it was great fun to do. And I thought it would be an ideal summer play, but it didn't happen.
Didn't happen. Okay. So I'm just trying to think, really. I suppose that the Osborne Players really took off once we got established in Queen's Drama Studio. We had something of a home, at least, although we didn't have anywhere to store things, but at least we had, you know, rehearsal and performance space.
We had a great facility there and a lovely little intimate performance stage.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Space.
Yes.
So yeah, it was good. And Nevin he'd become a lecturer in Queen's, so that was we were in there quite a long time. I'm not too sure how long, but yeah, it was very good.
Pretty well until, I suppose, we found Southbank.
Well, no, Nevin left to.
Oh yes, that's right. So then we have. And of course, we used to do performances in particularly in the group theatre, didn't we?
We did.
We did our performances there, and occasionally in the Arts Theatre, in Festival Fringe productions.
Yes, we were in Dirty Linen in the Arts for the Festival Fringe.
Oh yes, talking about Dirty Linen now. When was that? That was 1979. I'm just looking at that. Yeah.
I had just had Michael in 78, in December 78, and I remember there was a great rush to get my figure back.
Yes, I think Johnny has a photograph of that performance, don't you, Johnny?
There may be some photos to accompany this video, yes, popping up at some stage or another.
So that's something everybody should look forward to, I may tell you. I'm just going to put on my glasses so that I can read to you an extract from. See, in those days, we used to get a lot of feedback from newspaper reviews. Not so much now, of course, when they used to review the plays that were on in Festival Fringe. And this is a review by Betty Lowry that some people may remember, who was the Belfast Telegraph drama critic at the time. And she says, "What better way to describe Tom Stoppard's Dirty Linen, which opened at the Arts Theatre last night, than to repeat the words of a Sunday Times critic years ago? Hilarious, see it." It's always a bit suspicious when they describe something as hilarious, but it was. The packed theatre was a sign not only of the appeal of Tom Stoppard, but of the reputation of the Osborne Players, one of the most talented amateur groups in the province. Ooh. And later it says that it's about a select committee of the House of Commons. Most of its members seem to be on rather intimate terms with the sexy young clerk. Miss Go-to-Bed, a delightfully cheeky performance by Sheila Dixon.
Hey.
And this is the Irish Times, who described it as Sheila Dixon is a real joy as the wide-eyed darling of Westminster.
Oh, I didn't know it was the Irish Times. My goodness.
Your reviews for yes, Miss Go-to-Bed. That was exciting.
Maddie.
Yeah. So then, obviously, there was always a problem, wasn't there, with having no real home, finding rehearsal spaces and storage and performance venues and so on. But we did love the group theatre, didn't we?
We did. It had its difficulties. not least the spiral staircase from the dressing rooms down to the green room.
Yes.
And being in sort of costume, or, you know, tartuffe, with long dresses and all that. It was really perilous. And I often thought, gosh, if somebody takes a tumble here.
Yes.
It'll be curtains, literally.
I think the equipment was becoming less and less safe. Certainly, I remember Eugene saying that the electrical equipment was dodgy, to say the least, by the time.
And also, it was beside the Ulster Hall, and, you know, when there were sort of rallies going on there or punk music bands, you were sort of drowned out a bit by the noise coming through the badly soundproofed walls.
Yes, I remember then. I think we were doing Pride and Prejudice at the time, a very genteel performance, of course. And in the Ulster Hall, Judas Priest were performing with amplifiers up to the ceiling, and the floor was shaking while we were trying to do Pride and Prejudice. And then we had the odd Paisley rally as well, didn't we?
We did indeed, yes. Which didn't help matters much, but anyway, we won through in the end.
We did. But it was nice. It was kind of playing theatre, wasn't it? It was a real theatre with red plush seats, and
it was comfy. It was very cozy and comfy. And I'm sure Margaret McClellan will tell you, you know, that we had the Thursday night man who used to come in. I think he might have been homeless, I don't know. Used to come in to get warm, I think, and he would sit in the front row, but he would join in the dialogue with the play. You know, so, you know, if you had a scene going on between a guy and a girl, you know, and he's a bit of a chancer, this man would shout, "Don't listen to him, love."
That's right. You know? Oh yeah, it was a real character. I remember the Thursday man.
Yes. So it was good fun.
It's at that stage as well, we were doing performances particularly aimed at schools as well, weren't we, in there? We used to have some school groups who came in as well.
That's right.
But it was very cosy. I do remember, though, Margaret getting locked in there one night. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that. No. Maybe I wasn't in that play.
We all had to get out while the grumpy caretaker locked up and saw us away. And one night, Margaret got locked in.
Oh my
I think it was before the days of mobile phones. I can't remember how that worked out. But
how did she get out?
I can't remember. We must ask her at some time, but I do remember that. So other plays that we did around that time, we've got our list, but actually I think then the real change, of course, came when we discovered our Southbank Hall, because we'd been friendly with Trident Players for a long time, a very close connection, haven't we, with lots of people.
Well, it was between Eugene and Philip and Nora and people like that who were with Trident.
Yes.
And sort of came and sort of did parts in Osborne stuff, and we did in Trident. So
yes,
it was that coming and going for a lot of years, yes.
Yes.
Before we got there, we had been moving about between Musgrave Hospital and the Mount.
That's right, we had.
So we didn't have a very sort of stable home at all. You know, even when we were putting on plays, it was difficult.
Yes.
So
up until then, I mean, we were doing largely, weren't we, 2 plays a year for a long time?
Yes.
Spring and autumn, before we moved on to 3 plays and summer theatre, which of course was more problematic because we had to transport sets and equipment and also scenery and all those things, yes, to the different venues that we were going to. So then really, I suppose the big move for us was when Eugene spotted this empty Scout Hall in Kimberley Drive.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Remember how there was a lot of debate, wasn't there, about how the 2 companies together might manage this?
Yes, yes. And of course, what they decided to do, first of all, was change the name so that the 2 companies became one, which was very, very sensible. Well, I was sad to see the Osborne name go, you know, but you know, in the wider scope of things, it was a good idea, really, to to say this is a new company born out of the ashes of two.
Yes,
you know.
yes. Yes, it was. And there were a lot of people, I think, who were very skeptical and thought we couldn't manage it and we wouldn't be able to pay the rent and all those things. But actually, it was a great success, wasn't it?
It was indeed. It was. And having that base is so important,
yes.
you know, drama, really, because, you know, people find the whole atmosphere of a place conducive, and yeah, it worked very well for newcomers coming in. It was big enough to do the job, but small enough to be intimate and friendly.
Yes.
So it was good.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm wondering about, you know, over the years, when you think that there were, what, 5, 6 of you who originally founded the Osborne Players, at that time, where did the new members come from? I mean, were they mostly personal acquaintances or connections?
Well, generally, yes. I mean, Nevin brought people in from Queen's and later from Annandale. You know, I remember some of his pupils actually appeared in plays, you know, like The Real Inspector Hound, which I was in. And, you know, and so we had that. And then Eileen was at Stranmillis and she brought people in. And then when she was teaching later on, other people came in. So it was generally a word of mouth thing in many ways, you know.
Yes.
There was and of course, Sydney Cahoon, who was with the Hollywood Players, also joined us and guest directed for us, which was, so we had a bit of interchange there. From a few people came in from the Hollywood Players at times when we couldn't fill certain roles. So that sort of thing going on.
Yes. And of course, Arthur Webb was a member at that time, as he is again now, of course, and he would have had lots of contacts as well.
He would have, yes. So it's sort of just like Topsy, you know.
Yes, that's right. And before the days of social media, of course, it had to be more word of mouth, didn't it? And we hoped from our reputation as well, perhaps, that people would come to our auditions.
But it might have been that, or it might have been some of them were maybe hand-picked and persuaded. You know?
That's right. By invitation, as you
By
might
invitation
say.
only.
That's right, yeah. Yes, so that close cooperation with Trident Players was, and the amalgamation has been a joy to all of us, really, and it's been a company that worked really well. And then, of course, we were coming into the second generation, weren't we?
Yes.
You know, your children, my children, Margaret's children, Jennifer's children, who were all involved in plays, and then, of course, they had contacts as well.
Yeah, but I mean, one of my greatest pleasures was you know, that I have acted with Southbank with both my children, and you know, that has been a source of continuous pleasure, you know, because there's still a lot of banter going on about plays in our house around Christmas and around,
Yes.
You know, do you remember this and what happened and so forth.
Right. Yes, we were remembering the other day, weren't we? Now I've forgotten the name of it again, but Patrick was able to supply it of the show.
Foiled Again. It was called Foiled Again. Yes.
And it was
Margaret directed it.
It was a melodrama, and it was cast from the children, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was all the children of people in the company, and Michael was in it, and he was the Sir Hector. Was had a relationship with Shan Harris, who didn't, and the pair of them were so embarrassed about holding hands.
Holding hands, I remember that.
But Patrick had pestered me to get a part in this because Michael had one and he hadn't. So I went to Margaret and I asked her, could he possibly be in it? And she said, well, he could be a sign carrier, but you would have to make the signs. So at that stage, I was editing the DOE news journal, and I went down to our graphics design and got them to give me all the polystyrene for me to make the signs. So he could come on holding a sign that said this way. And
he was so excited. I remember he could hardly contain himself. He was only about 6 or 7, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yeah. He was. And Margaret always said she had to hold him back because he was like on a coiled spring. He would just loved the limelight, you know.
Yes. Yes, that's right. Well, it runs in all our families, I guess. It's amazing how many of them are involved still in one way or another in
that's right.
In drama, yeah. And I think that's been one of the strengths of Southbank, hasn't it? The kind of family feeling that.
Yes, and the continuity too. You know, there is a continuity there as well.
Yes.
No.
So remember when our Aoife as a baby was photographed in the handbag for the importance of being earnest, we thought this is yet another generation.
Is that was a smashing poster, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
She looked back on that one day and, you know, with
I know.
hope.
This little 4-month-old baby sitting in a handbag. Well, there have been some very entertaining times, I must say. Of all the productions, I mean, Johnny said at the beginning, you reckon, looking at the production list, that there were at least 45 productions that you were in.
I think they're probably nearer 50 or
nearer 50, probably.
Things like Pleasure and Repentance, which somehow has fallen off that list. I don't know. Probably. Which ones were the most memorable? Well,
what do you remember most?
Dirty Linen, of course, because I had to disrobe in it, or I was helped to disrobe by accident, and everything that I was wearing was Velcroed so that it came off. If somebody touched my blouse, you know, the blouse came off because it was Velcroed down the middle.
That was very daring at the time, wasn't it? It was
very daring. I was wearing really quite a lot of clothing. You'd be more undressed on a beach, you know, but more underdressed on a beach, I should say. But anyway, it was a bit daring, and I was worried about it. I really was, but it all went very well.
It did, absolutely.
But, I do remember Nevin coming in during rehearsal, and the first time that I actually had this happen, that the blouse came off, or the skirt came off, or something like that, and I could hear him at the door saying, "Oh my God." And it sort of stopped me in my tracks. But anyway, it was a very funny play, and we all had a ball doing it.
Yes, absolutely. I certainly got a photograph of the members of this committee. I think the only other woman was Joyce Fitzgerald, and then there was Stanley and Richard Palmer and Nevin, of course, and Arthur Webb.
That's right.
And they're all looking open-mouthed and just go to bed. That's right.
I wouldn't like to be doing it now.
Any others that stand out? I mean, I think we were saying the other day, weren't we, that one that we remember with perhaps not quite so much pleasure was the Lorca. Do you remember the House of Bernarda Alba?
Yes, indeed. And yes, we reckon maybe that the translation wasn't just quite up to the mark, because some of the lines were impossible to say. And poor Zoe, who has gone from us now, but she had these lines. She had to say, "We have chests," and she kept saying, "How do you say that? How do you say that? I mean, what does it mean?" She was killing herself laughing.
Yes, some of us were roped in as mourners arriving at this house, and we had these ridiculous lines. I think somebody had to say, "We have hot loaves," and then Zoe had this, "We have chests" line, and and of course, I think the men in the company weren't very happy. It was Joyce Fitzgerald's choice, and it was all women. There wasn't a single man in it.
It should have been full of passion and repression and so forth. And one of the adjudicators that we actually took it to a festival, or a couple of festivals, and he said that we were like a set of villagers at a village tea party, instead of full of all this passion and lust.
Sort of about passion. Most of the photographs, we all just look very depressed. I don't think anybody smiled. Philip says what he really remembers is that he and Eugene, there was a constant reference, do you remember, to this passionate character called Pepe Romano.
Pepe Romano.
And his horse, or stallion, should we say, was stabled supposedly next to this room, and they were in the wings making galloping and kicking noises on the side of the set, and that was all they had to do, which didn't please them too much.
No, it wasn't the happiest play I've been in.
It wasn't, was it?
But there were funny moments, if you know what I mean.
Exactly.
Unintentional funny moments.
Oh dear. And one of, do you remember the plays we used to do down at Carrickmore?
Oh, indeed, I do.
Particularly Sunnyside.
Yes.
Yes, tell us about Sunnyside, do you remember it?
I do indeed. And Neil Morton wrote that, and he grew up in Sunnyside Street, so he then later became the headmaster at Pretoria. But he described his own childhood in it, so you had all the neighbours in it and so forth, and the Orange Lodge coming to lift the master, and all that going on. So it was very Belfast in its sort of background. And that year, you had to be invited to Carrickmore Drama Festival. It was a special honour. You couldn't just go like everybody else to other festivals. You had to be invited, and they had invited us to go to their festival. So, of course, we sort of debated whether the play we were doing at that stage would be suitable for Carrickmore, being quite noted for its different things.
Very, very Republican area, should we say? Yes.
Yes, but it was very notable for us, the drama and the drama festival.
Yeah.
So anyway, we decided we would go, and we went down in a hired bus, and somehow, and I don't know how this happened, we had a drummer that came on stage with the cortege, the crowd picking up the Grand Master of the lodge. So we had lost our drummer. So we were debating on the bus what we would do about the drumming bit on stage. It was very last minute. Mm-hmm. And the bus driver said, "I can play the drums." And I said, okay. He got 5 minutes tuition, and then he was on stage, and his name is Robert. I've never forgotten him. And he loved every minute of it.
And he was great, wasn't he? He was great.
It was great. And then afterwards,
we had to sing the sash at some point during that play, didn't we? So we were a bit anxious.
And the adjudicator was actually Billy Burns from Larne Drama Club. And he said, he got up on the stage, he said, "Well, the first thing I'm going to say is, I think this is the first time we've ever heard the sash sung in Carrickmore."
That's right. Yeah. They were very hospitable, as I remember, and continually wanted to keep filling us up with drink all the time in the interval and everywhere. And afterwards in the pub next door, where they closed the front door, because this must have been 12 o'clock at night. And we're very, we all went in the back. And by the time we were going home on the bus, we were all rather merry.
And I remember Margaret McClelland dancing in the aisles of the bus.
Yes.
And, no thought about what might happen there, health and safety wise. We had a great time. It was absolutely wonderful.
It's good for our own hospitality for you there. You see, that's
what it is. That's what it is.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, great times.
So any of the more recent plays that you remember particularly?
I love The Beauty Queen of Leenane. I think that's probably the best part I've ever had, and I was
just going to say that.
It was a great play.
It was nice to come back and do something meaty, at sort of this stage in my life, or that stage in my life. It's a while ago, but I really, really enjoyed it. It was lovely.
I think that the only play you got killed in?
Sorry?
Was that the only play that you actually got killed in?
Yes, I think it is.
It's a bit gruesome, wasn't it, at the end?
It was gruesome. I remember seeing Anna Manahan do it at the Opera House years and years ago, and she was a big Dublin actress, and I thought she was wonderful, and I thought I would love to play that part, but I never ever thought I would, and it was just such a joy to actually do it, and
It's interesting, isn't it? People often say that it is really so difficult, I suppose, to make your way in any sort of very successful way in professional theatre. Amateur theatre, in a way, is so much better, because if you're good, you get to play amazing parts.
Yes,
that would never come your way otherwise.
Well, I'm sure that's absolutely true.
Yeah. I remember your Mrs. Madigan in Juno.
Oh yes, I loved that too. I played it twice.
Yes,
it's so good. I played it twice.
Yes, I know. I remember you singing "If I were a blackbird."
I'd whistle and sing. first time Patricia Calderwood was producing the play, and I sang If I Were a Blackbird, and she said to me, in all seriousness, do you know, it takes a very good actress to be able to sing badly. And I thought, well, thanks, Patricia, but I do actually sing badly.
No, I was just going to say that to you, actually, and because I remember her saying that, and it was because Mrs. Madigan was supposed to sing badly out of tune, and that is difficult to do, and you did it so well. It was it's a great part.
It's only the second time I think I've ever sung on stage. Well, that part I sang as Ophelia in Hamlet at her drowning scene, you know. So
that was with Shakespeare Society.
Yes, with the Shakespeare Society.
Yeah.
So singing is not really my forte.
Remember when we did? Oh no, it was Macbeth, wasn't it? Where we actually got to the Opera House for the drama finals, and we did Macbeth in the Opera House, and pretty well, yeah. It was a very strong cast, I think. Except I remember one of the adjudicator was that man Mason? Was that his name?
I don't know. I wasn't in that.
No.
But I saw the play now in the Opera House. Yes. I went to see it, and it was very good.
And because I know we did Juno in the Opera House as well, didn't we?
We did indeed.
But I remember the Macbeth because I remember the cast coming in from the back at the beginning in kind of procession with Stephen, who at the time was 11 years old and playing son of Macduff. Recently,
yes, I remember that. He was wearing white satin and blue, white and blue. He was wearing.
That's right. Carrying this big candle with Michelle, who was Lady Macduff, and Philip, who was Macduff.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great production as well. Except I remember the adjudicator referring to Nevin and Jennifer, who were Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, as the small Macbeths, much to Nevin's indignation.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Yes, it was good fun. The adjudications weren't always brilliant, but anyway, you always learn something from them.
Yes, you did. That's right.
But it was a thrill playing on the Opera House stage, really.
Yes, yes.
I think the first time the first time I worked with you, Sheila, not the first time I met you, but was Conversations on a Homecoming. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do indeed.
And the poor guys, for those who hadn't seen it or don't know it, it's set in a pub in Ireland, as most Irish plays are. But these guys, they physically had to drink pints, and Sheila was the barwoman. So me and Isabel Cowan, we were behind the set. And we were just filling up these fake pint Guinness. And it was the most horrible stuff because Eugene found this non-alcoholic Guinness. It was called Super Bock. Have to be careful how you pronounce that. SUPERBOK. Right? And it was this a non-alcoholic Guinness, but it was really expensive. So we only had 24 bottles of it. So we used it for the head, and then we filled up the rest of these pints with flat Diet Coke.
Oh
and
my! Must have been horrible.
That sounds disgusting.
And they had to drink so much of that.
They had to drink 2 or 3 pints, and I think Michelle was directing, and she told them, she says, "Boys, you have to drink. You cannot go up and order new pints unless you drink these pints." These poor fellas were just pinning these pints the whole night, and
that was a great play to be in, actually, too. But
that was good fun.
The photographs of me are just absolutely dire, and there was a great lot of banter on the Southbank website about Sheila's been at the whiskey too much or something.
Yes.
All that sort of thing.
Food and drink have always been a bit problematic on stage, as I recall, way back to, what was the play about the bus conductors?
Double Double.
Double Double, when Molly, of great memory, as those of you who will remember her, Molly was a great fan of eating. Yes. They were all in the canteen, these conductors and drivers, eating fish and chips, which there was the same lot of fish and chips produced every night. So actually, most of them who had any sense were just pushing it around on the plate. And Molly was sitting devouring these fish and chips.
Tucking in.
Tucking in. So she actually forgot her lines.
She did. Oh, dear. I think that was one of the first double bills we ever did. We, at the start, after the first couple of plays, which were The Day and the Death of Joe Egg and Antigone. Then we started to do the double bills, which was a great idea because, you know, you got a variety in the contrasting plays, and you were able to use quite a lot of people in the drama club, so nobody was left out at that stage. I thought that was a great idea, you know.
I mean, Between Mouthfuls was one of a double bill as well, wasn't it?
It was, and that went right.
Charlotte was directed that the first time in Enniskillen. Remember, she always referred to it as the eating play. We had to keep producing these platefuls of different sorts of food for you two pairs to sit and eat on either side.
That's right. And Bowden and I were finished before the others, wasn't that right? Something like that. And
that's right. There were these two pairs of people at different tables, and you only heard them speaking when the waiter was at their table, and they were carrying on conversations which were supposed to end at the same time. Yes. And I was prompting, I remember, and they got completely out of sync. And I thought, there's nothing I can do here.
Well, you know, getting completely out of sync is de rigueur for Osborne, or sorry, Southbank, but it would have been Osborne at this stage when we did Summer by Hugh Leonard, and it takes place on a hill with I think 3 couples having a picnic, and then 6 years later on the same hill, and we had this awful night one night where some of the dialogue is very similar. And instead of going through the second act, one person, I'm not going to mention the name, but Philip, you know who you are. I think it was Philip. Anyway, got us all back into the first act, and we were just going round and round in circles. And, you know, at the end, we were thinking, oh my goodness, what happened there? And Nevin said, oh, it's the domino effect.
I was prompter for a long time before, thank goodness, Elizabeth came to do the prompting, and she was so good at it. I used to be on edge all the time, and I think I had been originally very thrown by Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which goes round and round in circles anyway.
Yeah, well, all stopper plays do. I mean, Dirty Linen was exactly like that too. I
mean, and Eugene and Trevor Moore were Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
That's right.
And, you know, at one point, I think they just skipped about 4 pages. And Eugene was always very good at going back and filling in the gaps, and you could see him thinking, now, is there anything there that I need to go back and put in? So clever. That's the sign of a real professional, I think, isn't it? People can do that.
It is indeed. Well, some of those were really heartbreaking for some of the older, like Stanley Fitzgerald in Dirty Linen really got sort of, he was going around in circles, you know. So I had developed a trick of saying my lines over again and then saying theirs, and then
exactly. Well,
thank you so much.
What I said about a real professional.
Yes, well, I don't know about that.
By the way, Alan Hunter used to forget lines sometimes, and as you say, he would come dancing off into the wings at the end going, thank you so much for getting.
You could see it, there was like a veil came down over his face, you know, a look of panic. Help me, please.
I know. But now, to be fair, we've very seldom had prompts. You can usually somebody can rescue you.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Well, my goodness, Sheila, that is some very impressive career. Your life of drama. Sheila and I have been friends for, as I say, for 50 years, and a great deal of it has been because of the tight friendship groups in Southbank. I mean, it's always been a happy company, hasn't it?
It has. Yeah.
Lots of enduring friendship.
We shared a lot together, I think, Penny.
We have, yes.
Good times and bad times, and
we have, absolutely.
That is enduring.
Yeah,
it's lovely.
Well, it's been lovely talking to you, Sheila.
Lovely talking to you, as always. And Johnny.
Oh no, it's been great, Sheila. Thank you very much. Now it's and hopefully people out there will be entertained and like it. As I say, this is just a bit of a trial run. But if the guys out there, if you like what we're doing, like to see more of these, then give us a wee like and a share on Facebook. You can put in the comments any suggestions. We're hoping this will be the first of a series of interviews with some of our more experienced Southbank members as we get to know a bit more of the history of the company. So hopefully you've all enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Sheila, for coming. Thank you to my gracious co-host, Penny. And hopefully we'll see you all soon again on the next episode of Southbank Stories.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A pleasure.